Hi and welcome to SuperDUO. I'm Swapnil and here are all the details, callbacks and easter eggs I noticed in the 5th episode of Loki. In this episode we saw Sylvie trying to find out the truth from Renslayer in TVA and poor Loki got stuck on an unknown island about which a lot will be revealed ahead in the video. Along with these multiple Loki variants, there is also a giant cloud monster trying to hunt them. And hidden among these are multiple easter eggs. So this video is going to be full of spoilers. So with that warning, let's start the breakdown of 5th episode. So the 5th episode is named Journey into Mystery, which is a callback to the Marvel comics of the same name, which introduced Thor and Loki's story. Also, it recently got an updated version in which Kid Loki also got featured. So episode 5 starts in TVA where we see a name Oak Island on the TVA screen. Now Oak Island is a reference of a mystery island which is said to have treasures from the 18th century pirates. Now on the other side, in this strange place which is named the Void, Loki meets his 4 variants and he also learns about Alioth. Now this area Void has multiple easter eggs spreaded throughout the place. Even the name Void is an alter ego version of the superhero Sentry. But of course Sentry is not related to this show, so we'll skip that part. But the monster Alioth is also named in the comics and played an important part. Alioth was the first trans-temporal entity who existed across divergent realities as an enormous cloud destroying all it touched, causing massive temporal disturbances and devastations across entire dimensions. Also in the very first scene we can see the word Kang written on the Avengers Tower, which is of course a reference to the Kang Enterprises from the comics which bought the Avengers Tower from Tony Stark. And later it was revealed that Kang Enterprises actually belonged to Kang, which should have been an obvious name. Also another easter egg is the name on this destroyed bus, which is Callum Ross, who is an editor on the Loki show. Back in TVA now, Renslayer and Sylvie are in the time court, and because I couldn't find any particular easter egg here is an obvious one which is a painting on the walls which looks similar to Stan Lee. Perhaps it's a tribute to the great Stan Lee. Now back on Void we see Loki traveling with his variants to their hidden base, and multiple easter eggs are scattered overall on this place. First is the ship and the spaceship. This ship might be a reference to the 5th edition of Fantastic Four comics which had Doctor Doom in it. Now the spaceship is a reference to the sightings of real life spaceships. This show already linked a lot of real life incidents such as Loki being DB Cooper, and also later in this episode we'll see the US Eldridge warship, which was rumored to have disappeared during the Philadelphia experiments. Also we see a lot of large heads which I think are from Sakaar, which we saw in Thor Ragnarok. But I have no idea what these headless birds are. If you have any idea about them, please let me know in the comments. But in this next scene we again see a huge head which is of Yellow Jacket, the villain from Ant-Man movie. In the climax of that movie he shrunk and got destroyed. But maybe in an alternate timeline, instead of shrinking, he expanded, being the reason creating an alternate timeline, and hence he was brought here. Here Loki tries to question the Loki variants loudly, which attracts Alioth, and Kid Loki points his sword towards him. This is the same technique which Loki uses to magically create his weapons. Also this sword that he has is from Norse mythology and also shown in the comics known as Levitine. It was shown in Loki Comics edition 368. When Kid Loki orders them to keep moving, Loki asks his variants why they are taking orders from a kid, on which classic Loki replies that he is the king of this kingdom. And then Kid Loki tells Loki about his Nexus event which was killing Thor as a child. Now Thor has been killed in comics many times, but it was never by Loki. We only heard about one event from their childhood about Loki turning to a snake and trying to kill Thor, but that was when they were around 8 years old. But this kid looks at least 14-15 years old. Also, as Kid Loki is still alive, we might get to see him added in the Young Avengers, a show or movie which is forming slowly in the background of all these Disney Plus shows. Now when they finally reach their base, here we see a yellow plane on which written the words Thanos. It is a reference to Thanoscopter from the comics which we saw in the comics Spidey Super Stories number 39. He used this helicopter to search for the Cosmic Cube. Also we can spot Thor's Mjolnir here, which might be from a variant version of Thor. Also just below that we can spot a frog which is captured inside a jar, on which we can see written T365. Now this Mjolnir might be of this frog Thor whom we have seen in the Marvel comics of Thor edition 365. Also because he is Thor Frog, he is a Throg. Now the bowling alley which holds their base might be a variant of Yggdrasil tree, which was first shown in the Marvel Comics Journey into Mystery edition 97. According to Norse mythology, this tree connects the 9 realms. Also inside their basement we see a few more Easter eggs, such as the robot who looks like Wally, Polybius arcade gaming machine which also has mysterious past of disappearing, and also a pinball machine which is a 1976 Williams pinball machine. Back in TVA, Renslayer tries to stall Sylvie, but when she gets aggressive, Miss Minutes talks about a void spacecraft which can take them to the void. Of course, she tries too hard to make her believe this, but I think this is a reference to the time ship of Kang from the comics, which also worked as a time machine for him. Back on Void, Loki is seen drinking wine which has a brand name Roxy on it. This is a reference to Roxxon Corporation, which we have seen multiple times even in this series and in the MCU movies. Also, the drink Kid Loki is drinking is Ecto Cooler High C, which was launched in 1989 and was a limited edition. This is also a reference to the past discontinued drinks like Boku and Josta. Now, while talking about their Nexus events, Classic Loki tells about his story, which was similar to Loki's arc till Infinity Wars when Thanos attacks their ship. He did not try to fight Thanos and instead hid in the rubble till they were gone. This reflects to the multiple fan theories that Loki faked his death in Infinity Wars and actually did not die. Also, he calls every one of them God of Outcast, which is a line directly taken from 2019's Loki Comics number 5. When a frustrated Loki tries to leave the base, he is greeted with multiple Loki variants, in which we know President Loki from the comics Vote Loki, but we also know the bearded Loki whom we saw in episode 2 of Loki series. Now Sylvie prunes herself and lands in a school bus in the void. Here we can see some eggs in nest inside the bus. Now I think these headless birds are from these eggs and are of Alioth, as there are no other animals in the void. Although this fact doesn't affect the breakdown, but I'm just really curious, what are these birds? Then Sylvie starts running away from Alioth and sees a car coming towards her, which is of course driven by Mobius, who also got pruned in the last episode. Now this scene has so many Easter eggs. First is the car, which is shown as a pizza delivery car, which might be a nod to Pixar movies, which shows a Pizza Planet car in every movie as an Easter egg. When we see this car coming towards Sylvie, there is a movie theater board which shows a name of the movie, Oswald and the Martian, which might be a reference to the 1930s movie Mars. Next, inside the car we see this hula doll, which we have also seen before in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and WandaVision. The car's nameplate is GRNW1D, which when spelled is Grunwald, a reference to the late Marvel Comics writer who was the creator of Mobius. And also we see Owen Wilson driving a car like a racing car, which might be a reference to the fact that he was the voice behind Pixar's famous movie Cars and the main character Lightning McQueen. Also we see the Sphinx of Giza and pyramids, and towards the right side we see some ruins which might be the Greek Acropolis building. Back in the hidden base, all Lokis fight and we see Alligator Loki biting President Loki's hand completely off. This is similar to how Loki chops Thor's hand in Thor the Dark World. Then our MCU Loki escapes with the help of Classic Loki's teleportation magic. Once they are out in the open, we can see a crashed spacecraft behind them. I'm sure this is some sort of a reference, but not sure which. If you guys have any idea, do let me know in the comments. Back in TVA, we see Renslayer going to the Time Theater number 38 to see B-15, who is captured inside a cell. The number 38 might be a reference to Marvel Comics Earth Mightiest Heroes number 38 edition, which had Mephisto as the main villain. Mephisto was supposedly the Kang of WandaVision, which never showed up, just like we might not see Kang in the finale of Loki. Here in Void, Mobius is sitting with other Loki variants, and right outside the shelter, Sylvie and Loki are talking to each other. Loki creates a blanket using his magic and wraps it around both of them. To this, Sylvie passes a comment that it would be better if he makes her a new outfit instead, because the one she's wearing is very uncomfortable. In real life, Sofia DiMartino actually had to breastfeed her baby during the shooting of Loki series, and the costumes made the task very difficult for her, until her costume designer made a change to the costume which would help her in nursing, and this might be an indication to that. Sylvie questions Loki if she can really trust Loki, to which Loki replies that all his life he has betrayed every person who trusted him and loved him, including his father, brother and his home Asgard, but he won't betray her. By the way, if you noticed, he did not take his mother Freda's name, as he never betrayed her in real life. And when finally they all get together to fight Alioth using Sylvie's enchantment, in this scene we get more Easter eggs lying around, like the crashed spacecraft of Ronan from Guardians of the Galaxy. And we can see a huge head, which is the statue of the Living Tribunal. This head actually belongs to a real timekeeper whose job was to protect the multiverse. And one more Easter egg is the helicarrier ship which we saw in Captain America the Winter Soldier. Sylvie hands the tempad to Loki, but as Loki wants to stay here and help her, he gives the tempad to Mobius. Mobius opens the time door and says goodbye to Loki, thinking it might be the last time he is seeing him. Loki asks Mobius what he will do when he goes back, and as a callback he uses Loki's dialogue from the first episode that he will burn the place down. Now Sylvie and Loki move towards the end where Alioth is present. They start waiting for something to get pruned so that Alioth moves towards it and Sylvie will enchant him. Loki comes up with an idea, and before Sylvie tries to stop him, Loki starts yelling to bring Alioth's attention towards him. As Sylvie tries to enchant Alioth, instead of going towards Loki, he turns towards her. Loki tries to get back to Sylvie to save her, and just then Alioth gets distracted by something else. Here classic Loki uses his magic powers to create a grand and realistic Asgard, which even surprises Loki and Sylvie. Loki ends up saying to Sylvie that he had no idea that Lokis are so strong. As Alioth tries to destroy the projected Asgard, classic Loki keeps creating new projections. Here Sylvie asks Loki to help her in enchanting Alioth and says he can do it because they both are the same. Then classic Loki slowly loses his strength and ends up on his knees, and Alioth comes to destroy him. And finally classic Loki stands on his feet, and like all Lokis, he says his favorite dialogue, which is glorious purpose. As he says that, with a boisterous laugh, Alioth destroys him and all left behind is his helmet. Alioth turns towards them now, and Loki and Sylvie's combined power enchants Alioth, and the dark cloud slowly starts clearing up. This scene is similar to Guardians of the Galaxy, where all of them team up and use the power of the Power Stone to fight against Ronan. At the end we get to see a castle which is at the end of time. Loki and Sylvie starts moving towards the castle together, and 5th episode ends here. I am really excited for the last episode of this series, and I'll be coming up with another breakdown video soon, so make sure to subscribe to SuperDUO. If you guys like this video, then please give it a thumbs up and keep supporting. Thank you for watching this video. I'm Swapnil and you are watching SuperDUO. Next, you can check out any of the videos on your screens right now.